We're here. We're live. I'm so excited. For those of you who have been watching us, we've been joining here together on Facebook Live at 10 a.m. basically for the last few years. And we get to introduce you to some awesome practitioners, spotlight them, introduce you to them. Lots of times they will share some useful and worthwhile information and teach us a little bit about what they do. And it's kind of nice. You get to meet a whole bunch of different people that you maybe wouldn't have got to meet before. These three speakers that we're going to be having on today, I feel really like just a lot of gratitude for the opportunity to introduce you to them. The first one that we're going to be having joined, like I said, all three of these will be speakers at our Pocatello conference. And the first one that's going to be joining us today, her name is Crystal Borup. And I'm so excited. I've been able to sit and chat with her on the phone and get to know her a little bit. And one of the things I really love about her is her authenticity. And she's just really cute and fun. And I also found out she is the sister-in-law to Amy Winsett. So if you have seen Amy before at our conferences, they are both a lot of fun. Her class is called A Guided Meditation for Soul Alignment. And I know she's going to be telling you a little bit more about that today. But let me go ahead and introduce you to all of this cool things about her. Right now, she's living in the Grand Tetons area and has been enjoying traveling around and having a lot of fun adventures, which I think is always so exciting. But let me go ahead and read you her bio so you can get to know her a little bit. And if you're just joining us right now, I'd like to introduce you to, well, we're going to be on 3 different platforms right now, but Crystal and I can see all of your comments. So please just maybe tell us where you're tuning in from and one thing that maybe you've enjoyed about these Facebook Lives. Maybe you have a question for somebody who's a practitioner also. So I'm excited to introduce her. So Crystal is dedicated to enhancing and enriching the lives of others through soul experiences. Her life's work is to bring people together to experience the frequencies of love. Don't we need more of that in our life, right? I actually wore these cute little heart earrings. Oh my gosh, my earring came right up. These cute little heart earrings today because I was just thinking about that. So I think that's awesome. Let's see. She also loves having these experiences of life and truth and facilitating the expansiveness of and alignment with one's soul. So it sounds really interesting, sounds really cool. I'm excited. She is a teacher of spirituality, meditation, and yoga. And she is a subtle energy activist, a Reiki master, and the author of Yoga Beyond the Physical. And I love that. That's so cool. Crystal is the previous owner of Yoga. I'm going to hopefully not butcher this name, Samadhi Studio and School in Washington. She has been teaching, guiding, and mentoring students for over a decade, and she focuses on Soulful Living Retreats and online classes. So please go ahead and welcome the amazing Crystal Borup. Hey, friend, how are
Hi,
you?
Tammy. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have you on. I'm actually going to have you start out with going beyond that basic intro of what we just heard. Tell us a little bit more about you. Like, what are some of your interests? What brought you to this work? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I would say what brought me to this work, like many of us, is my own healing, right? So many years ago, I struggled, like so many of us do, with finding my truth and who I am. And about 20 years ago is about when I started taking yoga classes. And that's just kind of when things started to shift for me. I think it was actually about 18 years ago. Um, and then I eventually started to dive into learning more about yoga beyond what we know it to be in our country, our culture. And I also got into any energy work, probably 15 years ago. So it's been in my life for a while, but mainly for my own healing.
That's awesome. I love that. And what are some of your like side interests and what kind of like tell us who you are as a person, right? Like give us
Sure.
a taste of you, Crystal.
Oh boy. Well, I feel like the older I get, the more boring I am in my personal life. I like to cross country ski instead of downhill anymore. Or, my husband are pretty active. I'm a big hiker.
Awesome.
Like to be involved in, community stuff as much as I can, travel, all of that.
Very cool.
Yeah, yeah,
That's that's
it's
super.
fun.
So are you gonna be doing snowmobiling out where you're gonna be living this winter then?
We did it at Yellowstone last winter and it was fun. It's not maybe my favorite thing to do, but it was quite the experience. You haven't?
I've never been, so I'm like, ew, are you gonna be doing that?
My husband and my stepdaughter went without me. I was out of town, and they got to see so much wildlife and on snowmobiles. Like they went through a herd of buffalo, and it
Wow.
was crazy.
Oh,
When
that's
we went,
cool.
we didn't get to see any animals, but
Yeah, no, that's so cool. I love it. Well, tell us a little bit about your book as well and any other information that you'd like to share. And then I'm also going to go ahead and post the link how people can get a hold of you as well.
Sure. So my book was just kind of inspired as a tool to be able to offer my students. I've taught lots of trainings and workshops and things like that, and always taught a regular class where I offer practices that help people go deeper. And so I was inspired to write this book so that they had something to take with them that they can practice at home, and also so that they can kind of understand more about what yoga really is, because we believe it to be this physical practice in our country, but that's really not yoga. It's just a tool to help you get to yoga, which is that union state, that union with the divine. So that was kind of the inspiration behind it.
That's
There's
really
lots
cool.
of Yeah, there's lots of tools in there. There's also just some of my personal experiences and along the way in my journey. So
I love it. Well, tell us about your class that's going to be happening in Pocatello because the topic is really cool, and I know a lot of people are going to be really interested, especially like soul alignment. We've got so many planets in retrograde right now, and so many people are talking about shadow work right now and pulling back. And I don't know if this is right for me. Looking at all the decisions there, this kind of thing, and I'm like, soul alignment sounds so refreshing right now to so
Right.
many people, I guarantee. So go ahead. I'm gonna actually pop off and give you the stage here, the virtual
Okay.
stage, and give you an opportunity to talk about that a little bit more. And thank you so much for the intro and letting us get to know you better as well. I appreciate that so much.
Absolutely. Okay, so just to kind of share the overview of what I'm going to be talking about is I'm going to explore just a little bit into yoga and what energy within yoga is. And then also we'll talk about a little bit about energy just in with healing. Um, but really my main priority for my speaking conference is to be able to take the audience or take everyone who's in my class through a deep guided meditation. And I do that by connecting to the subtle energies. And I also do that just by kind of cultivating and holding space for others to go deeper. And then I guide everyone through this meditation. So, um, the purpose of it is to connect and align more deeply with your soul, but different than what Tammy just mentioned briefly. So shadow work, for example, is where we are looking into the past or our current programmings, our habits and belief systems and things like that, and working through that, which we would call our shadow work. But in the soul alignment work, we're not focusing on any of the shadow work or any of the darkness or any of those things. We're only focusing on stepping into the light. And the way to do that is to go within and connect more deeply. And in my experience, when we are able to do that, the things that don't serve us will ultimately fall away. So I'm not saying it happens overnight. It's definitely a process, but it's very deep work. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with everyone. Yeah, I'm trying to think, Tammy, is there anything else that I'm missing? Okay, maybe she's popped off completely.
No, I'm right
I
here.
guess, oh, there she is.
You're totally fine.
Was that a good enough explanation? Is there any more clarity that I
Yeah, no,
should
I think
give
that's really
or?
good. Like, tell us a little bit about like who is the class guided for? Like, who would be
Sure.
somebody who'd really benefit from coming to this class? And then, like that way people can kind of like when they're looking at the different classes, they can gauge if that's the right class for them. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I would say it's really is anyone who is open and willing to go deeper into their self, to discover really who you are at your core. We all have a lot of experiences where we are having to make choices like every single day. And there are choices that we can make that are aligned with our soul, or there are choices that we can make that are maybe based in fear. And so this work with, the work of going within and really connecting more deeply helps us to align with what it is we even want. So if you're looking for clarity in anything, then this deep guided work will help you receive that clarity. It'll help you find more balance, more ease, and it's really, it really has the opportunity to be profound. I don't know if transformation's the right word, because it definitely doesn't happen like transformation overnight, but this profound work. And yeah, so I would say anyone who really wants to experience a deeper state. A lot of us turn to other practitioners for the answers, and it's my job as a facilitator or a guide to help you find the answers within. So I'm not a coach. I'm a guide. I just facilitate this experience, and within that, there's also healing. So
Yeah, that's awesome. One more question that I was going to ask too is if somebody is watching right now or on the replay even, and they wanted to, they're like maybe trying to find somebody to help them find more balance and more alignment. Like, how can they work with you? What kind of offerings do you have? And then also maybe tell us a little bit about what's going to be happening in your vendor space as well at the conference.
okay. Sure. So I have two main offerings. So I lead Soulful Living Retreats, and my next retreat is in Joshua Tree, California. It's a women's only retreat. I just launched it. So it's going to be a smaller retreat, and I think there's only 9 spots left. So if that interests any of you ladies, then you might jump on that sooner than later. But it's just all going to be focused on healing and connection and clarity and also community. So we're coming together with, like-minded women who are wanting the same thing, wanting to go deeper, wanting to connect and align. So within that, there's going to be, a lot of community that will be built. In the retreat, we will be doing some guided hikes in the national park. We'll be doing a sound healing event offsite. We'll have a private chef. And I think I'm going to bring in a massage therapist for at least one day. And then I also will be leading everyone through daily yoga, as well as soul journey meditations, and then some healing meditations specific for healing. And then also, in addition to that, I lost my train of thought about it. Well, anyways, that's a lot. That's a lot. So then my other offering, so retreats is the first one. And then my other offering is I have an online community, although we definitely see each other in person in the retreats and stuff, but an online community that is really designed similar to what I'm doing at the conference. It's designed to help you go deeper, to connect and align with your soul. So we meet once a week, and we do soul journey guided meditations or healing meditations. So the healing meditations, if you can think of like Reiki on steroids. So Tammy mentioned that I'm a Reiki master, and we choose one person for the healing, and if someone has a specific need, and then we, as a group, we determine an intention to set for this person, and then uh, we all meditate, and together with that intention. And my experience is it's like Reiki on steroids, because it's not just me coming in, it's the whole group. So anyway, so those two things is what I offer. I do some other online classes as well that you can check out. The group or the community is held and supported within an energetic field, and I energetically connect daily to the group, just to kind of help clear fields or strengthen fields, and support my community, as a subtle activist, as you mentioned. So those are the two main offerings, and yeah, I think that's about it. I assume, Tammy, you'll put me in the notes. My website's crystalborup.com. Super easy to find.
Okay, tell me that one more time and I'll put that up for you right now.
Sure. It's crystalborup.com. Just my name. Super easy.
Yeah, that is easy. Thank you so much. Your retreat sounds so heavenly. Can you tell us, can we find that on the actual, like at the website that you just gave us?
Yeah, both of my events, or all my events, are on there, all my offerings.
That's awesome. Well, this is your first time speaking with us, and I am so stoked to have
Me
you.
too.
It's one of those things that, like, well, your sister-in-law, Amy, she's been speaking at our retreats. I've known Amy for a long time and didn't even know about you. I'm so excited to like know about you now, but it's going to be so much fun.
She's been trying to get me to come forever, but we've just been busy every time something comes up. So I'm finally settled into the Tetons, and it's 2 hours away. So it was perfect.
That is awesome. Yeah, it is so perfect. Okay, so I'm looking at your Joshua retreat. Oh my gosh, this looks amazing. So amazing. Oh, I've been hearing really good things about the Joshua Tree location. In fact, my daughter's been doing some wedding photography there.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and she's like, it is so beautiful, Mom. You're just going to love going there. So I had it on my radar.
Plus,
it's kind of cool.
It's kind of the perfect place for anyone who's into energy healing, just because of the vortex there. The energy is so strong and powerful. So that's actually why I purposefully chose that for the women's retreat, so that the healing and all the things that we're, kind of there for, it's like amplified because we're in Joshua Tree.
That's awesome. Funny story about energy vortexes. So I didn't know about them. This was years ago. And we went down, we were driving past Sedona as a family. And I kept saying, pull over. What is it about this place? And I literally kept like, I'd get out of the car and I'd walk around. I'm like, something is so different. And I don't know what it is. I kept walking around. And my husband's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I don't know. The energy is just so different right here. And I did that several times. And then like later, and then a friend mentioned about, and I'm like, what? I went and looked it up, and I'm like, I was like right there. Didn't even know.
I've been to Sedona many times, and it is amazing. I actually did part of my yoga training out there just because I love Sedona so much.
It is so cool. But could you imagine like knowing that you could feel it, but not knowing what it was? Like nobody had told you. I was just like, but I wish I would have known like how to utilize it more. You know what I mean?
Well,
like since you're already there.
Well, I think, whether you know how to utilize it or not, it's there for you when you feel it, and good for you for noticing it and being present enough to notice it while you were driving through.
With a car full of kids.
With a car full of kids. Yeah, that's amazing.
And not just any kids, but my kids. They can be really loud and like they're playing Uno and like throwing stuff. I mean, it's literally like a circus in the car. But I could feel it. And quite a few of my kids are very sensitive too. And when we all settled down, we could all feel it. It was really cool. But well, thank you so much for telling us about your retreat and how people can get a hold of you. And thank you for being at the conference. It's going to be so much fun. You guys, there's her link tree. Make sure you go follow her and check out all of her cool stuff.
Thank you, Tammy. I can't wait. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Okay, sounds good. That'll be so fun. Okay, well, she's a blast. That retreat looks amazing. I highly recommend going and looking at that. And that's going to be awesome. All right, for those of you who may have not been introduced to our next guest speaker today, this is the amazing Trevor Dimick. We're going to go ahead and bring him on up. How are you, my friend?
Excellent. How are you doing today?
So good. And I'm so grateful to you. Have had huge successes and breakthroughs with you. I'm just so grateful. I want to read your bio if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Trevor is a life transformational expert, educator, mentor, and speaker. And he is the founder and owner of Rocky Mountain Integration, which is, by the way, in Spanish Fork, Utah. Trevor graduated from Weber State University with his degree in child and family studies and psychology. He has earned his certified family life educator certificate from the National Council on Family Relations, and he has earned his Crossinology brain integration certificate from the Learning Enhancement Institute. Trevor is the author of the amazing, Amazon, I'm sure it's amazing too, #1 best-selling book called The 14 Laws of Happily Ever After. And thank you so much for coming on and for bringing us all of your awesome wisdom. I want to go ahead and have you introduce yourself a little bit above the bio, like who is Trevor Dimick?
Bald and crazy. Okay, well, just a little bit. No, I actually went through school with dyslexia, which was, I had a severe learning disability where I couldn't read, I couldn't spell, I couldn't memorize. And so in 7th grade, I was diagnosed with this thing called dyslexia, which I was completely unaware of. And, but it kind of explained why learning was so difficult for me, why school was so difficult for me. And went through school with this, struggled through, fought hard, worked 10 times harder than everybody else, just barely get by. And then later on in my life, I heard of this brain integration technique that could eliminate dyslexia, ADHD, auditory processing, and was honestly I was like, I don't know about this. Like, I've tried other things, like nothing really works, but I'd seen one of my cousins who had dyslexia and depression, and it got rid of his dyslexia and his depression. And so I was like, okay, now I'm more excited. I want to try this. And so I went and had it done and completely eliminated my dyslexia. And at the time I was working my master's program to do marriage and family therapy. And I went back to school the next week and I was blown away. I couldn't believe how easy it was to learn. Like, inside my head, I had all this information. I could remember what we talked about in previous classes. I could remember what I'd read in textbooks, and I could spell words that I couldn't spell before, like mountain or receive. And I was just blown away by the results. And so I got interested in this brain integration technique. But then I had a son at the time, he was about 4.5, and he had really bad ADHD, ODD. And so we had his brain integrated and completely changed his life. And ours. As a parent, it was very difficult to want to go in public because it was so hard to have him in public. And you felt like a failure all the time as a parent because no matter what you tried, nothing really worked when it came to disciplining or helping him have a better life. And as soon as we had his brain integrated, he could connect consequence and action. He could control his emotions. He could make better choices. And the life changes that occurred in him and us as a family was so drastic. I realized as a counselor, I could not create that much change in 10 years of therapy that one day of brain integration did for me, my family, and him. And so I knew I needed to change career paths. And I went and got trained in this brain integration technique. And I've been doing it for about 10.5 years now. I've worked on over almost 1,000 people now. And every day I get to witness miracles because people say, that's impossible, you can't do it. And yet I'm doing it every day and helping change people's lives. And it is the most rewarding and greatest thing I could possibly do right now.
Well, I want to share a personal experience if you're okay with that, because you've
Go
been
ahead.
to, well, how we found out about you actually was a lot of your clients had been messaging us saying, have you heard of this guy, Trevor Dimick? And I'm like, no, who is he? And because so many came in, I was like, I got to go check this guy out. Went and looked at your website and I was like, what is this? And I'm like super intrigued and interested and checked it out. But because so many people had referred you and recommended you, you came so highly recommended with people who got real results from you, that we decided to go ahead and have you come on. And I had interacted with you at conferences. I had talked to you. I'd seen you before. But when I experienced my own brain injury, what I was personally experiencing, this is like super vulnerable, but I'm just going to share it anyway, because that's just how I am, right? Apparently I wear my heart on my sleeve. I was driving and it was like the road started to move and change like Jello, and you can't drive when the road's like Jello, y'all. It's like not a safe thing, right? So I had to keep pulling over and I wasn't able to go anywhere. Now I'm still having a little bit of anxiety that's related to the brain injury. But when you have a complex brain injury, like I had one 20 years ago, when there's a lot of other integral parts to it, I think it's a little bit more complex. But after I worked with you, from the very first moment that I worked with you, no, I haven't had any roads turn to Jello. That fixed it. And I remember what you had said to me was that my left brain was working well, my right brain was working well, but they weren't working well together. And when that happens, that's when those kind of things happen. And so I'm really grateful because like I personally now can give you, like what do you call that? A testimonial, to have had that happen for me. I mean, that's a life changer. I have 8 children. Very active. I mean, I'm running kids around like all over the place, especially we live in a rural area. So, you can't just tell the kids to go get on the bus or whatever. Like they need rides. The life goes on. Right. And so it's given me back a lot of my independence. So I'm really thankful for that.
Cool. Well, I'm so glad that you're seeing improvements, and it's amazing how just the littlest things can actually cause so much havoc in our life. And it's really just oftentimes our brain and how well our brain can connect. Can left and right connect? Can front and back connect? Can different parts on the left side connect? Can different parts on the right side connect? And one of the things that's really amazing, and why I say pretty much anyone can benefit to a degree from brain integration, is because the things that cause brains to turn off. And that is typically head trauma, physical head trauma, or emotional trauma. And so for me, this is kind of embarrassing because I've only been knocked out once, never had any other concussions, but I don't like to tell this story because it makes me look like an idiot. But I actually knocked myself out on a goalpost during 7th grade, running around, was just chasing each other. Some kids and I were out there, and I went to grab the goalpost and like swing around to lose this kid that was right on my butt. And I kind of turned, and when I turned back in, I just hit that goalpost and knocked myself clean out. And when you hit your head that hard,
knocked out, like on the ground, knocked out. Oh, dang.
I was out cold for about 5 minutes. And so, but what happens is the brain hits the skull, and it can cause swelling and inflammation on the brain, which then reduces the blood flow, and it causes those synapses to turn off. And so then we lose some of that function. Luckily, the brain's very fluid. And so even though we may lose some of those connections, we can form new connections or reconnect those sometimes and gain some of that ability back again. But sometimes it doesn't. And we have this permanent loss of function. And we have to go back in and turn this part of the brain back on manually so you can regain that function of the brain again. So, head traumas, emotional trauma. I had a client come in who he had a full ride academic scholarship to university, very, very intelligent kid. And his 2nd semester, he flunked out and lost his scholarship. And what happened, he had been dating this girl for a couple of years, was completely in love with her. And she broke up with him 2nd semester. And the emotional trauma and the pain was so intense that his subconscious brain's like, hey, we can't keep living this way. Like, we've got to get rid of this pain. But how do you fight or flight or freeze even emotional trauma like that? And so the brain just started turning off parts that would cause him to care about her. Well, if I don't care about her anymore, then all this pain goes away. And so the part of the brain that can, what's important to me, do I care about it, turned off. So now he doesn't care about her, but he also doesn't care about his grades or his scholarship or college. And so he just stopped going to class and stopped doing his assignments and flunked out and lost his scholarship over it. But it's just the way the brain responds to that emotional trauma that we have. And so it's really important that we're able to, say, okay, this part of the brain's really struggling on. How do we turn this back on? And then get the brain working well again. So the little things in life or big things in life, like my dyslexia, goes away. And then we can function in school better. We can learn better. We can progress. We can get out of bed and smile in the morning. So,
well, one thing I also wanted to share that I personally experienced, because now that I've actually had this full day long session with you, is as I was laying on the massage table. And I mean, if somebody didn't understand how energy works at all, it'd be kind of weird. Like you got your hand here or your hand here or up above, or, you're doing different things, but I could feel when the energy flow turned back on. Like I couldn't feel that it was stopped at that moment before you began. But once you started and the energy flow was there, I could feel that. And it was like a substantially different, it was like stop at 0% to, like 100% of flow. And I still remember when you went ahead and you connected both of those together. It was as if I had been underwater and just not able to even catch a breath. It was like my whole body could breathe again. And so, so some really cool things for people who are you're questioning, is this real? I wouldn't have known that myself, but I went and tried it and I experienced some pretty cool things there on Trevor's table. And I mean, you work with pretty much every age, isn't that right?
Yeah, I recommend waiting till about 5 or 6. The cells of the brain are developing and growing pretty rapidly up to about 5 or 6. By then, about 90% of your cells have grown and developed. And so there's a lot to work with. And that last 10% grows between 5 and 6 and late teens, early 20s. But my youngest client was 4. My oldest client was 85.
That's awesome.
86, somewhere around there. And it works really well with all ages. So it's really never too late to enjoy a good brain. Like you can come in and we'll get your brain working and make life easier for you. And it's like, woo, this is awesome. But yeah, about half my kids are adults, about half of them are, or half my clients are kids, about half are adults. So I work on a lot of families because it tends to connect. Like my grandpa had dyslexia, about half his kids had dyslexia, about half his grandkids had dyslexia, me being one of them. And so it can run in families to where it's usually more than just one that could benefit from the brain integration. So
that's awesome. All right. Another question I have. What are you working on these days? I know you've got some stuff kind of up your sleeve that you've been working on, that you've been pulling, you want to make it so that this information is more accessible to people. I'm going to actually go ahead and turn the time over. Give you a good, 3 to 5 minutes to explain that. We'll put the link up so that people can check it out. Does that sound good?
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Okay, so this brain integration I've been doing is rewiring the brain. So this is physically reconnecting the synapses in the brain so information get from point A to point B, where it needs to, when it needs to, at the right time and moment in time. The new thing I've been working on is I'm calling it brain coding, and this is to reprogram the brain. Our brains are a lot like a computer code, and so how we respond to our environment is similar to how the computer responds to the user. If I were in a Word document and I pressed T on the keyboard, I should get a T on the screen. If the codes are coded correctly. If the codes are coded incorrectly, I might get a Q or an S. And so this brain coding actually takes us through the human development process from conception until death. And there's different stages of psychosocial development that we go through. And during those stages, we are coding our brains to certain ways. That explains our life, how life should be, how we respond to people. And there's been a lot of life coaches, a lot of these, self-improvement gurus that have been trying to help us change these core beliefs about money, about success, to help us improve that part of our lives, or maybe in relationships. And I was one of those. I have another business I do with that type of stuff. But I realized that this technique that I was using in success and wealth and relationships is also very powerful in changing our behaviors and how we respond on a day-to-day basis. And so I've created these online programs people can access to where you can go in and recode your brain, reprogram it to respond to your environment correctly according to these human development stages. So it's as if we grew up in a perfect environment, regardless of how traumatic our parents or our coaches or our teachers, our environment was. We can go back and recode our brain as if we grew up in a perfect environment and developed all the perfect codes so that when we hit T on the keyboard, we get a T, not a Q or a P or some other letter, right? And it goes to these 8 stages of psychosocial development. And so an example, I had a client come in who she was wanting to do some marriage coaching, and she was frustrated with her husband because her husband kept lying to her. And so as I asked, like, well, what's he lying about? And she's like, well, he's always telling me how beautiful I am. And this kind of like threw me, because I was like, well, you're a beautiful lady. Like, why don't you believe you're beautiful? And so she kind of gave me some more background history. She grew up with 2 brothers, an older one, a younger one, and they shared a bathroom growing up. And when she was a teenager and started doing her hair and makeup, she would spend a lot of time in the bathroom, which then would frustrate her brothers. And so when she'd come out of the bathroom after putting all this time and energy into looking beautiful, her brothers would say things like, well, that didn't work, or, you're still ugly. That's such a waste of time and energy, because they're wanting her to stop spending so much time in the bathroom so they can have more time in the bathroom and get ready for school or whatever they're doing. And so in the process, they were from doing that, but they would say things like that because she kept hearing day after day after day, you're ugly, that didn't work, you're helpless, you're hopeless. Her brain, her subconscious brain wrote these brain codes that she's ugly. And so when she looked in the mirror, she didn't see anything beautiful. She saw ugly, just like someone who maybe struggles with anorexia or bulimia. And so when they look in the mirror, they don't see beauty. They don't see skinny, they see fat, even though they may be, like really, really skinny, where there's like skin stretched over the bones. They still see fat when they look in the mirror. And this lady, when she looked in the mirror, even though she was very beautiful, she would only see ugly. And so that's how she developed these codes, that she was ugly. But now when her husband would say like, oh, you're so beautiful today, I love your hair's so beautiful, you have beautiful eyes, whatever, her first thought was, what do you want? Why are you lying to me? You must want something from me, right? Because that everything in our environment filters through these beliefs or these brain codes, and it produces these natural thoughts, which then produce a feeling, which then produces an action, which has a consequence, then that stimulates us again. And so it's like this little circle that's going around and around. And so he would say something like, oh, I love your hair today, it's so beautiful. And then her first thought, because her code was I'm ugly, she couldn't accept that. So her first thought was, what do you want? Or why are you lying to me? What do you want from me? Which then created this feeling of resentment or anger towards her husband. And so then her response to him wasn't loving or gratitude. It was, kind of up yours and don't manipulate me, which then became, his stimulant, which then he was like, well, what the heck? Like, I'm just trying to be nice. I don't want anything from you, kind of thing. But it changed how she was responding to her husband incorrectly. It's like hitting the T key on the keyboard and getting another letter. And so she's trying to type up this email, but because her brain's not coded correctly, it's not making any sense. She's not getting what she wants out of her relationships, out of life. And so we're able to go back in and change. Beautiful. She has beautiful hair, beautiful eyes, beautiful long blonde hair, whatever, beautiful skin. And so then when her husband or another person would say, oh, I love your hair, I love your eyes, you're so beautiful today. Now her first thought was something positive. It was something, oh, thank you for noticing. And it made her, that first emotion was something positive. It made her feel good about who she was, which then made her respond to her environment differently. And so these brain codes are extremely powerful in dictating that natural and automatic response to our environment. How do we respond to the people around us? How do we respond to ourselves? How do we respond to certain situations in our life really come from these brain codes. And so, for example, in one of the first stages we learn from birth to about 2 years old is, do we trust our environment or do we mistrust our environment? And if we develop these brain codes of mistrust, then they're going to affect how we respond to our environment in every aspect until we die. And so if my brain's coded to mistrust, and in a relationship and my partner says something right to me, I may not believe them. I may constantly have this doubt in the back of my head of, I don't know if that's right. Like if they tell me I'm beautiful, I might be like, you're just saying that, because I don't trust what they're saying. I may go to someone and say, well, do you think I'm beautiful? And then someone else will be like, well, I think you're beautiful. Like, well, I don't know if I trust you either. And, and you can just never get that sense of trust in your life. It's going to affect your job when you're working with your coworkers, with your boss, with your employers, with your employees, right? There's going to be this sense of trust, and it just causes havoc in our life until we can regain this sense of trust. And it's really powerful once you go back in and change all this. I have 4 different, well, there's actually 5 programs, online programs you can purchase. They're kind of like an online college course. They're a little bit intense. It takes about a half hour to an hour a day if you want to do it in a timely manner. You can stretch that over a year and do 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there. But I recommend get it in about 4 to 6 weeks. And that takes about a half hour to an hour a day to do it. But it's extremely powerful in changing these codes because it makes us naturally and automatically respond to our environment correctly. And it takes away a lot of those roadblocks and those stumbling blocks out of our life that cause us to keep sabotaging things and keep sabotaging our relationships and keep sabotaging our life and keeping us from enjoying this life. One of the things I found really cool is that, what makes this really powerful too is parents can actually do this for their children, which kind of seems a little bit weird, but as parents we have these parental rights. And one of those rights is we can help our children and improve our children's lives. And so it's really powerful, especially when you have kids that are just really ODD and they're just not really cooperative and don't want to do anything and don't want to go to a counselor and don't want to get help and don't want to do this. They get help. I had another lady who was doing this she had 2 daughters with borderline personality disorder. And even though we don't diagnose disease, we don't treat disease, we don't cure disease, right? But these codes can help change the behaviors with some of those diagnoses. And so this lady had two daughters with borderline personality, and she was doing the codes for the one, and this daughter, she hadn't been able to miss a therapy session in years. Like she had to go every single week to her therapist, and if she couldn't go, like it was havoc. It was just horrible. Life was horrible for her. And after doing a bunch of these codes, the daughter actually called the mom from school and she's like, "Hey, can you cancel my therapy session today?" And the mom's like, "All right, are you okay? Like, what's wrong?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't know. I just don't feel like I need to go today." And so it just completely changed the way she was responding to her world and her environment, to where she didn't have that uncontrollable desire to have to go to her therapy session and have this relationship that she was so dependent upon. And it just broke that loose to where she was able to just live life and not have all this anxiety and have all this struggle and this challenge that comes with some of those challenges of these personality disorders. So it's really powerful in helping a lot of different things. But those 4 courses I was talking about, there's 4 that go through the 8 stages of human development. And then there's the 5th one called the personality disorders course. And in that course, there's codes that are connected or relative with social anxiety disorder, narcissism, oppositional defiant disorder, borderline personality we talked about. And it just goes through, and there's all these codes that you can go in and change so that a lot of the behaviors that are associated with these disorders are eliminated or gone. It's not going to cure or eliminate the actual diagnosis or the problem, but it's softening and helping with some of the behaviors that are associated with it. So it's really, really powerful. And I've just seen tons of results. The 10-10 program, that first, it goes from like birth to 2 years old. And there's a lot of trust, a lot of self-worth codes in there. They're really powerful. I've had the most recent person that went through the course. There's a pre-quiz and a post-quiz you start with. So you take this pre-quiz and you kind of, it helps you determine how many behaviors that they're in this course that you have. And so I think there's 30 questions, and this client had 29 of the 30 behaviors. And there's actually a whole lot more behaviors that can be helped through the course, but I've just identified 30 common ones that the course will help with. And she had 29 of those 30 behaviors before she started the course. By the time she finished the course, she had 2 behaviors. This course and she did the course in I think it was 3 or 4 weeks. She did it really fast. Within that 3 or 4 weeks time frame, she eliminated, out of those 29 behaviors, she eliminated 27 of those behaviors in such a short period of time. Mind-boggling, mind-blowing, like going to school to become a therapist. You can't create that much change in that short period of time through other resources that are available out there. It's absolutely just amazing to see how much change can occur in behaviors in such a short period of time by just changing those brain codes. so that you naturally and automatically respond to those people around you, your parents, your siblings, your children, your coworkers, your neighbors. You start responding to your world differently, and it's natural and automatic. Sometimes people don't even recognize that there's a change. A lot depends on how aware you are of yourself. I had another lady, her adult daughter lived she was about 3 hours away, I believe, if I remember correctly. And she started doing all these self-worth codes for her adult daughter who lived 3 hours away. And while she was doing them, the daughter calls her up, mom, there's something wrong. And the mom's like, well, what's going on? What's wrong? She's like, I don't know what's going on, but I feel really good about myself. And it's not normal. Like, I think there's something wrong. I feel so good about myself. And the mom's like, well, actually, I'm doing these brain codes for you that's working with self-esteem and self-worth and reprogramming your brain this way. And she's like, oh, okay, good. Keep doing them. I like it. It was just weird because I never felt this before. And so it was just really cool to hear some of these amazing stories from clients and how these brain codes can change your life. And like Tammy was saying, that there's the brain wiring side. When you experience trauma, physical head trauma, emotional trauma, it can turn some of that function. And so there's actually part of the brain that deals with trust. And so sometimes the brain wiring is not wired correctly, so you can't process trust. And then sometimes it's the programming. And so that's where I'm able to really look at both. Is it wiring, or is it programming, or is it both? And really get to those core and the root issues of these problems, to where these problems are no longer a problem anymore. And it can just really be life altering, life changing for people. And I absolutely love what I do so much, because I love to help people. Going through school with dyslexia, struggling so much, seeing other people, other classmates struggle too, was really frustrating for me, because I don't know if it's my logic brain saying it's not fair that it's easy for some and harder for others. And I mean, I don't make life easy for everybody, but this makes life so much easier. You don't have to go through school with ADHD or dyslexia or auditory processing. You don't have to wake up in the morning hating life and not wanting to live anymore. You don't have to feel like you're anxious all the time when you're sitting at home reading a book. You can enjoy life. You can be calm. You can sleep better. You can function better. You can remember better. The brain is so powerful, and yet it's complex. And there's a lot unknown about it still, even with all the research that's happened and everything that's done in the last few years. There's still just so much we don't know about the brain. But what we do know, we can do so much with, and improve life, improve learning, improve work, improve families, marriages. I've had multiple clients tell me that these things saved their marriage, or it saved their family, or it saved their life. On my website, utahbrainintegration.com, there's actually some video testimonials. One of them's the story of Dave. He had severe depression, and he was planning on killing himself. Luckily, he had a friend who knew about this and says, hey, come get your brain fixed. I did the brain integration, and his friend happened to be a videographer. And so this is where I got the video, because he did a pre-video of this guy before I met him or even knew who he was. And he kind of talked about life and blah, blah, blah. And then he did a post video of him and put them together and gave it to me. And so you get to hear and even see this guy's energy change and shift from one video to the next, and see how powerful it was, and where he was to the point where he's like, as soon as my mom dies, I'm going to kill myself. But I'm not going to kill myself till my mom dies. Because I guess he had a sister, if I remember correctly, or someone who lost a son to suicide, and just tore his sister apart. He didn't want to do that to his own mom. But then after the brain integration, he was like, it's gone. The cloud's gone. The depression's gone. It's just amazing to see. And you can see how much lighter he was. So very, very powerful techniques that can really change lives. So hi, Tammy, you're back.
Hey, I'm back. Thank you so much for sharing.
Did I take up my time? I lost track of time. I just got going and forgot what I was talking about.
No, you totally did really good. I just wanted to join in on the conversation.
Okay, good. Sorry.
But I just thought that was really cool how it can help with lots of different things. And like, you've had your own experiences too. And to be able to be able to bring that back full circle and help other people, I think it's a really big deal. And I would even use the word heroic, to be honest, because you could have done a lot of other things. I mean, you were going to school for something else entirely. But you chose to do this because of how much it influenced and helped you. So what I'm going to ask right now is, first of all, I want to go back to your story about being beautiful, because I actually turned even off my backstage camera so you couldn't see me crying. And I thought, this is stupid. It's okay for me to like get on here and be vulnerable. Like, it's okay. I'm a real person. And it's something that I struggled with, you know? And even like last night, I was there was a podcast. Well, it came out last night, but I was watching it this morning. And the girl was talking about how these boys at camp, had said that she wasn't as pretty as all the other girls at camp, right? Like she was a 8 or something. And she's like, and it's okay. And I was like, man, don't let someone else choose what your number is or how beautiful you are and everything. And then I thought to myself after I was like done listening to her, and I'm like, man, why did that affect me so much? Like I was crying listening to the podcast. And then I thought, it's because of my own insecurities around, you know, like my looks or whatever. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, where did this originate from? So that's been on my mind this morning. And then when you were telling that story about that woman with her husband and how her brothers and all of that, I'm like, oh my gosh, my brothers used to have this saying. They used to make fun of my breasts being really flat. So they used to say, you're so flat, the walls are jealous. Or you're a pirate's dream, a sunken chest. Like, why did they think that was okay to make fun of my boobs? You know what I mean? Like, so
Brothers
stupid.
are so mean. I have 6 of them. They are just mean.
No, I just like really. So I like been thinking about this so much, about how like bullies or siblings or people in your life, like saying different things, like they don't even realize how much it can affect them. In my car last week, my middle schooler and his buddies were in the car, and one of them called the other one a loser. And I pulled over. I'm that mom. I pulled over. I said, we don't talk like that to people. I said, why do we not talk like that to people? And like, we had this full on conversation, all of us. And at the end, they were like, we won't say that anymore. We're really sorry. And they all apologized to that kid. They're like, you're not a loser. We actually really love you and respect you and look up to you. And so like, you just don't really know. But the fact is, like, as a mom, sometimes you're like, man, the damage is done. Or as an adult, you're like, you know what I mean? But you can help with this. So I love it. So these brain codes classes, you said they're available on the website, utahbrainintegration.com. Is that right?
Yep. And
okay, and I put it up
gift,
on the screen for you.
Okay. For a gift, anyone who comes to my class or comes to my booth during the conference, give them the 10-10 class for free, $200 value.
Are you serious?
Serious. So it's just an online course. And so I'll give you a code that will allow you to access it for free. If you come to my class, I'll give the code in my class. If you come to my booth, I'll give you the code. So you're going to want to come to the conference, and if you want access to this for free.
That is really, really generous of you. That is very cool. That is awesome.
I love to help people.
So this, I know, I can tell, really. So this is what I want you guys to do. I want you to think of anyone that you know that could benefit from something like this, because I actually have a handful of free tickets that I have to give to people who would like to actually attend. So this means that you would not only get a free ticket to the Pocatello conference itself, but then you could go to Trevor's class and get this whole brain coding class for free. And which one was it again? What was it called?
It's Human Development 10-10. It's those brain codes based on our human development from conception to about 2 years old. It's the trust and self-worth. Everyone can benefit from that.
Wait, so you're saying that you develop your sense of trust and your self-worth between 0 and 2 years old?
Yeah.
Well, I am so screwed. Do you know what happened to me? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not screwed.
Well, that happens to all of us.
That's the point, though, is that there are solutions and there are answers and there's things to try. And what may not work for one person, well, there's something else that you can try and find out what works for you, right? So, but what you're saying is these two things that are established between age 0 and 2, this is like a standard across the board thing, right? This isn't just like for some people.
No, this is every single person goes through the stage.
It's just for blondes. It's just for women. No, it's for everyone.
Blondes and bald people. We're the only ones that need help.
You're funny. This is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to put the link up for the Pocatello conference. If you guys are interested and you'd like a free ticket, this is how you find out more about the conference. And I have had some people message me and say, I really, really want to come and I cannot afford it right now. And I'm like, dude, here's a link. So I don't turn away people for financial reasons. Okay. So if you want to come, will you please just message me and let me know? And then of course, there's all these goodies to be had. There's complimentary light therapy. There's the photobiomodulation patches. You can come and meet Trevor. You can pick up one of his books. You can, all these different things that you can do. You can get a foot zone from Joy or a massage from my sis or whatever, There's like, I don't know, what's one of your favorite things about the conference, Trevor?
Oh, for my favorite thing, the energy. This is where like-minded people come together, and the energy is so powerful and amazing there. You cannot come and not walk away feeling better about who you are and life if you come to the conference.
That's
awesome.
Awesome.
It's like this recharge that's just going to put you through the roof. Okay. Well, actually, so one of the conferences like years and years ago, there was like one of those drum. I can't remember what she did. She beat drums, right? And I had never seen this before. And so I got drummed. I've never been drummed before. She has a person in front of me, a person behind me, and they're hitting these drums, and they start at my feet and they drum up to my head. And they're like, just close your eyes and relax. I'm just standing there, this rhythm, this beat. By the time they were done, I swear I was 4 inches off the ground, just floating in the air. I was like, this is unreal. Like, this is why I come to these conferences, because there's amazing people there that do amazing things.
Yeah, there's some really cool new things that you wouldn't have been able to, really participate or learn about otherwise. I love that. The thing that I was just thinking about last night, and I feel like it's cool to talk about this with you, is that it doesn't really matter if you're an extrovert or an introvert or somewhere in between, because you get to choose your own experience there, right? Like you choose which classes you go to, which vendors. You can say no at any time. People are really respectful of your boundaries. If you don't want to do something, or if you choose to leave the class, you're welcome to leave. I feel like that's really respectful and supportive to all different types of people. You know what I'm saying? Like, isn't that cool?
It is. And I'm one of those introverts. I like my space. I have a large bubble I like. And so, but it's respected there. Like people, there's all sorts of people there, and they get it. We've all been at different locations. We've all experienced different things. And just the like-minded energy that's there is phenomenal. You won't regret it.
Yeah, it's really awesome. You guys, this is all happening on October 8th in Pocatello, Idaho. It's at the Idaho State University. The first 4 times that we've been there, so we've been there 4 times, it was a sold-out event. That was pre and post-COVID, right? So like all of the things. You're going to want to get your tickets right away. It's a time sensitive giveaway, because once we're sold out, I can't really give you more tickets. So I want to encourage you to go ahead and get your tickets early. And here is my little thing. I'm going to go ahead and put up a link across the bottom for you. So if you do not have a free ticket, write down my email right there. It's Tammy, TAMMY @hopehavenevents.com. Because of our generous sponsors, we have some tickets that we can do on a limited time only. So it's time sensitive. Make sure you get registered right away, and we'll get you in there. So Trevor, would you like to add any closing thoughts before we end today?
Enjoy. It's life. Make the best of it.
Awesome. All right. Sounds good. Thank you, everyone, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.